Well, hi, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Oriac Live. This is special for me. I'm guest hosting. My name's Ryan Payton, and yeah, I've been really thrilled to have been asked to do this and honored to do that. I've done a lot of these before, whether it be podcasting, radio, TV things, and one thing I've always said is less of me is more, and more of the guest is better, because the guest is what we want to see and who we want to hear from. So without further ado, I have one today. She's fantastic. She's a stylist, a very strong TikTok presence on all the socials, and she joins us here on Oriac Live. Her name is China Allred, China Ray, a whole bunch of different names. That's the first thing I got to figure out about you. Anyway, welcome to the show. How are you?
Good. How are you doing?
Hey, I'm doing well. I've been looking forward to this. I did some research on you, so I won't get into too many details I found. I'm just kidding. No, everything was fine. Everything was fine.
No.
Everything was fine. Hey, listen, we're going to get into what you do, kind of the background of you, a little get to know you session, the socials, all that type of thing too. Some of the struggles you may have gone through and that you go through with what you do as well. But I got to ask you about the name. China. I know one other China in my life. I worked with her before, and I'm just fascinated whenever I get to meet somebody by the name of China. Any background into that?
There is actually. So China Phillips back in the day was a singer.
Yep.
Her mom and dad was the mamas and papas. And my mom went to a concert of hers, and it's not spelt the same, but she really liked the name. And she was like, that's what I'm going to name my daughter. So really like it.
I love it. It fits you. Yeah, it really does. It really does. And again, whenever I hear it, I think that's a really fascinating name. And usually there is a story behind that. Speaking of a story, where are you from right now? And just kind of give us a background as to where you grew up.
So I'm from Texas, born in Abilene, raised out in Sweetwater, it's West Texas. And I just actually recently moved to Austin. So just about a month ago, and I'm really enjoying it. It's really nice down here. It's a different scenery, if you will, in the best way.
Explain that then, because I've never been to Texas before last January. I went to Dallas to do a hockey game in the American Airlines Center. So that's the first time I went to Dallas. I fell in love with Dallas. I was probably in the nice part of Dallas too. But what's the difference that you just talked about there?
Well, growing up in West Texas, there's not much out there, if you will. It's very flat.
Right.
And then I actually lived close to DFW for several years, and
Okay.
there's a lot to do there. But Austin, there's so many things to do. You know, there's a lot of music scene and hiking, and the people are really fun down here. I like Texas in general, but I would say I fit in Austin the most of what I'm seeing, how nice and genuine and welcoming people are, you know?
Yeah, I always want to get down to Austin too. So whenever I do, that would be a good time for us to maybe to get together. But I went to Dallas, so Austin is on my next list. You're a stylist. It's a small word, simple word, broad range. Tell us how you got into all this.
Well, I got into being a hairstylist about 9 years ago, and I've really just had such a passion for it. And when I got into doing social media, it was definitely different. People expect a lot from you, and you know, they do think you have to be perfect at doing hair. And it's been really crazy because you don't expect some of the things people are going to say. And that's why when I got on social media, it was a whole different world. You know, I connected with all these hairstylists, and it's been a wild ride. I've gotten so many cool opportunities and made so many friends. And you know, I just went to the hair show in Chicago, and that was really fun. But it was not an easy journey, though, over the last 9 years. I will say I'm at a good place now, but it's taken, you know, years to get where I'm at, you know.
Perseverance by you. I can imagine, I could tell too, that it maybe been a bit tough. I'm somebody into something, I'll just tell you about me. I kind of like instant gratification. So the stuff that I do, I usually get to see the results within seconds after I do it. Is it something similar to what you do when you're styling some hair? Do you feel a sense of pride and satisfaction in what you're doing because you get to see the result once you're done? Is that something you think about?
I do, actually. My clients laugh at me because after I, you know, am done with the color, whatever I'm doing the cut, and I'm blow drying them, I keep telling them how beautiful they look, how beautiful their hair looks. I genuinely, every time I do someone's hair, I get really excited. And I'm like, wow, this looks amazing. I'm like, oh yeah, I did this. And I always like to make them feel beautiful and tell them how good they look, because you're truly transforming someone in front of your own eyes. And I like the instant gratification too. When that process is over,
Yeah.
It's like a high that you can't get anywhere else. It's so much fun, you know?
You have a passion for it, I can tell. Can you share a little bit about, if you want to, about some of the kind of the struggles that you had to get to where you're at today? You said you're in a much better spot now.
Well, I will say, you know, in the most positive way that I can,
Mm-hmm.
being a hairstylist is so much fun, and I've always had that drive. But for a lot of new stylists, you have to find the right fit of the salon that you work in, and the girls and the environment that you look for. It can be a big struggle finding out where you fit in. And, you know, every salon has different ways they do things, you know, with assisting programs and commission and hourly. And I've worked in probably 8 or 9 salons total because I would
Really?
never settle for one salon.
Right.
And I moved around a little bit, and it took me a while to build up, you know, my clientele every time I moved. It was a really big struggle. I almost quit doing hair actually once, or I took a little break from it, and I couldn't stay away from it. I was so sad. I was like, no, this is what I meant to do. This is my passion, and this is what China's meant to do for the rest of her life in some way. So
good for you to stick with it, right? Perseverance. That's an awesome thing. Good for you. You're in a good spot. Do you have a certain clientele, like an age range, or are they kind of all over the place, or is it somewhat centered?
I would say it's definitely all over the place. You know,
Okay.
I get those clients where they want, you know, just the gray root touch-ups. But
Yeah.
then I get a lot of, you know, young girls, you know, high school, I get college age. I genuinely feel like I'm lucky because some stylists, they only do certain things, and that's awesome. I kind of do too, but I do a lot of color, and I do lots of, you know, balayage highlights, but also, you know, fun colors every now and then, or just whatever someone wants, I'm willing to try. Reds and rainbows if someone wants it. I do a lot of blondes, but I like doing all ages because I feel like I would get bored if I just did one, you know, type of person or one age. I just like to do everyone, honestly. It's more exciting that way, and it keeps things
Yeah.
more fun and interesting day to day. You know what I mean?
Can you do anything about this?
You know, there's wigs. Give you like a fun little purple bob. I think
Yeah.
that'd be cute.
I'm good with this. It started years ago. I'm like, whatever, embrace it. It's supposed to be, it's meant to be.
It looks nice.
Thank you. Thank you very much. China Allred joining us here on Oriac Live. I want to go back to COVID. Again, that was tough for everybody around the world, for that matter, in so many different ways. And still people are feeling some effects about that. When it comes to you, you had to go from kind of a work in a salon model to a booth renter. Can you kind of take us through what that transition was like?
Well, I will say for us in Texas, we were only closed, I think it was a couple of months for COVID. And it was a really tough transition getting back into the salon. I was working commission in a salon,
Mm-hmm.
and I really liked that when I first got back into it. But there were so many people, and it was difficult because we had a lot of people that were, you know, kind of scared to come in and get their hair done, and we had to be really accommodating to that. And then when I started working for myself, by myself, I feel like people got a lot more comfortable because it was just me and them. They could wear a mask if they needed to. There wasn't a lot of people around. And I would say the transition, it wasn't too terrible. After a little while, you know, people started getting comfortable again, but it took a long time to fully get people to start coming back to the salon because people were so scared. But, you know, then we got back into the swing of things. It took several months, I feel like, for things to sort of kind of get back normal again. But I feel like for me personally, over the last year or so, I would say it's been pretty normal again for me, at least here in Texas. I don't know about everywhere else.
That's good. That's important. I think it's kind of getting normal too in a lot of different ways, a lot of different places, but there's always still going to be that that thing. So it's great that you got through that transition pretty well, and you weren't kind of shut down as long as some other places from what you just said. Also, marketing for you and promotion, self-promotion and all that type of stuff, that is so key for what you do. And we'll get to socials in just a second. I want to save that till the end kind of thing, because that's a whole bunch to talk about. What are some tips and keys when it comes to marketing what you do and kind of getting yourself out there?
I would say, especially for the young stylists, what I preach is that you have to post what you like. You know, if you like doing color, you need to post color. If you like cuts, you need to post cuts. You need to post what you're attracted to doing and the clientele you want to work on. And I feel like it's really important because you would have to pay for marketing.
Right.
Or you would just have to go months with no clients, wait for walk-ins or for people to find out where you work. And that's just not doable for a lot of people, depending on your living situation. And, you know, some people need to start making money pretty quickly. So I would say that posting on Instagram, it's free advertisement. You can post before and afters for clients to see. You can do lots of hashtags, but I feel like for me personally, I just started over my business about 3 to 4 weeks ago. And genuinely, thanks to social media, Instagram is a big, you know, part of that. I've just posted on there and I have honestly gotten at least 100 messages just off of Instagram over the last 2-3 weeks, maybe.
Really?
And that's helped me. I don't even have a terribly big Instagram following, but because I would, you know, post the hair or post where I worked at, posted a picture of the salon and said, you know, you guys come and see me. This is how to get in contact with me. That's really the best way to do it. And it's free. You don't have to pay any money. You can instantly get clients. And I feel like it doesn't take a year to build up a clientele anymore. You can do it within 3 to 6 months at the most, very easily.
It's incredible. Social media, isn't it? I know there's some negatives with it, which we'll get to in a second, but good on you to do that. And it just needs, I've always said this about many avenues of life, it needs just that one set of eyes or 2 sets of eyes, right? Just to see, and then that spreads and spreads and spreads. So good for you to do this. I'm sure it's just the beginning of the huge mountain that you're going to be climbing here. Speaking of social media, it's a massive thing. TikTok, all this type of stuff. 2 things. Number one, when did you get into this, even outside of your personal thing? And do you remember your first ever social media post?
Well, do you mean more so like TikTok, for instance?
Let's do TikTok. Let's start TikTok. Yeah.
Okay. So TikTok, I think I made my TikTok probably 3 years ago. And it was just kind of a silly thing I started. You know, it wasn't China as a hairstylist. I started that about probably 2 years ago. And, you know, I started posting me, you know, talking about client interactions and things that go on in the salon. And it just sort of blew up. I didn't know what it was going to be at the time. I just started doing it as fun. And I wanted to show the real side of doing hair, but also in a funny, silly way to get people, you know, excited to know what we deal with. And people genuinely, there would be so many comments of people saying, I've dealt with this, I'm a stylist, or people that have gotten their hair done, you know, interacting, saying, oh my goodness, I've had this happen to me, or I know exactly what you're saying. And it was so exciting. I've never seen that in my life. So many people getting together to all talk about these things, because TikTok was still so new a couple years ago. And it's just been really exciting, but yet wild to see some of the things that people talk about. And it's not just me. There's so many other stylists like myself that we get on and we talk about these things. And it's like you get to release everything you've dealt with, you know, and you know, bosses we've worked for. And it's just been crazy, honestly.
Social media has changed your life. Is that fair to say?
Yes, it definitely has. I will go, so I'll go to the store, you know, for instance, the other day I went to the store and a girl walked by and she said, China? And I was like, yeah. And she goes, wow, I follow you on TikTok. And I was like, oh my gosh, let's be friends.
How did that make you feel?
Amazing. Like, you know, it doesn't give me a, you know, a big head or anything, but it just, it makes you feel loved. Like people care what you have to say. And a lot of these people, they'll say, I've been following you for a year, 2 years, and I love your videos. They're so funny, but relatable. And it's exciting.
People need, I think, and you're a perfect example of this, people need to have interaction with somebody they may not know, and it makes a difference in their lives. So these people don't know you, but with what you said, what struck to me was that they can relate to you. Oh yeah, I did that. Oh, that's right. And then right away you have some sort of connection, and you don't know these people, right? So you're making some sort of impact on their lives. I want to just get into this quickly. You can follow me on Twitter at Ryan M. Payton, also at Oriac.ca/live, and follow the at Oriac group. on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. And China, you can tell us about your handles, and then we'll get back into this discussion because there's too many. I forgot.
So my Instagram, it's a little confusing.
Yep.
So, yeah, my Instagram's China with 2 A's and then Ray with 2 E's on the end. My TikTok name was taken on Instagram, so that's why they're different. But
yep.
So my TikTok name is China Ray with China with 2 A's and then just Ray, R-A-E. Sorry for the confusion.
Perfect. It's on there, and I'll say it again by the end of the show, so everyone will know where to find you.
Awesome.
If somebody is just going to start out on TikTok, even if they don't do what you do, styling and all that type of thing, what are some of the tips and what's some advice that you would give someone if they want to build whatever brand and presence that they're trying to build?
I would say you have to have a niche, you know, whatever that may be. I do hair, but, you know, I've seen people say, oh, I do clothes, you know, they'll do like try on hauls or they'll make funny videos. Whatever it is, you need to stick with that niche because people follow you for whatever that is. And also, it doesn't matter what you post, even if you think it's not good, because some of those videos that I genuinely feel like I spend the least amount of time on, that was my least favorite video, actually blew up and would get, you know, 1 million views. And then you're going, oh my goodness, I didn't like this video and I put no effort into it, but this is the one that people like. And that happens almost every single time.
Interesting.
Yeah.
What about when you're doing these videos and different things like that? The lighting, the sound is kind of the more natural, the better if you do this. And is that something that you really put time and effort into?
I would say for me, I do use, you know, a ring light. I have a stand I put my phone on.
Yep.
And I wouldn't say I put too much effort into that. You definitely want, you know, the quality to be clear. I make sure I always have the newest iPhone. But you definitely want to make sure it's very clear and the lighting's at least decent. It kind of depends on the videos that you make. For me personally, I feel like lighting is a big factor. People need to be able to hear exactly what I'm saying, because when your videos pop up, you know, on the For You page, or if people are following you, you want it to be recognizable what you look like as well. That's another thing. Not only the niche, but you want it to kind of look the same, you know, the way that you film things, because a video will pop up. Even if you look different, they don't recognize you, me without makeup versus makeup. They'll see a video and they're like, oh, that's China, because that's the format of her videos. And that's the lighting, like everything needs to be somewhat the same every time you film. I would say that's very important.
Humans are creatures of habit, right? So if we see something that you do every day, okay, now that makes sense. And then you get right back into watching you and different things like that. There's a lot of good with socials. There's some bad. I certainly know over my career in broadcasting that I've had a few people over the time say, you don't know what you're talking about, all this type of thing. And that's kind of tough years ago to deal with that. But at the end of the day, I can't please everybody. I can just do the best job I can. Have you found as well some of these tough moments, and what advice would you have for those that go through this that maybe aren't able to handle it as well?
I would say for me, it definitely took some time of getting used to the ugly comments, because sometimes I would, you know, comment back, or I would just delete their comment and block them. But it got to the point I thought, you know what, it's okay to have a different opinion than I do. You know, I would post a video saying, you know, this is how much my cuts are, or this is how I did this service. And you are always going to have someone that's going to have a different opinion. And it, you know, might be negative. For the most part, I'm very lucky. I get mostly very positive, sweet comments from the people that follow me. But I just, for instance, had one, I think a day or two ago, where I said my haircuts were $60 or something like that. And someone was like, oh my goodness, I can't believe you would charge that. That's insane. You're ripping people off. And, you know, I just had to look at that and say, I'm not going to respond. I mean, that's okay that they feel that way, but it definitely took a toll on me for a little bit. I'll be honest that, you know, I thought, oh, you go through these ruts where you feel like, do people not like me? Am I doing something wrong? Was I meant to do this? Like, can I handle this? And I just kept going. And honestly, those mean comments got to be less and less, I think, because people saw that it didn't bother me, because I wasn't reacting and getting angry and blocking them over something that they said that really I have no right to be mad about, because that's their opinion, right? So that's how I look at it. It doesn't really get to me near as much now. I try not to focus on those I just have to focus on the positive ones and say, you know what, let people say what they're going to say and just keep moving forward.
And it makes you stronger, right? At the end of the
It
day.
really does.
And one of the biggest things I found it too, there was a number of, I mean, I don't need to go into my career, but there's been a number of times, and this was years ago, and now I just ignore them. If somebody said something to me, I would say, well, you know, you're entitled to that opinion. I appreciate the listen, or I appreciate the watch, something like that. But now I just ignore it. And that's the best thing to do, because if you ignore it, then it probably ticks them off even more. And then they just end up leaving you alone. It's that circle. Is there somebody that's followed you or messaged you that was out of nowhere, that was a complete shock?
To be honest, this may shock you. Paris Hilton, actually.
Oh, wow. Really?
On TikTok.
Oh, wow.
I died just a little bit on the inside. I think I did a happy dance in my kitchen for about an hour.
Did you?
She,
when was that?
I'd been following her, and I think I duetted one of her videos, or I used her song or something like that. And she commented, and I saw that she followed me. And that was genuinely the coolest moment of my life thus far, I would say.
And when was that? When did that happen?
That was several months ago.
Okay.
I'm still in shock that she follows me, but yeah, it's my little happy place. When I look, I'm like, oh, we're mutuals on TikTok.
If you want to do a happy dance now, you can. If you want to save it for when we're done, it's totally up to you. You're in your space, so whatever works. How much fun do you have? Not only doing these videos, because I certainly I've watched some of them, and I think they're great. I want to ask you one question about one of them, but I think they're fantastic. When you put the effort into it, how much fun do you have doing those? And almost too, how much fun do you have like styling people's hair as well?
I would say making the videos on TikTok, this is going to sound silly, but it's like an escape. It's like a happy place, something I get to do. It's almost
doesn't
like,
sound silly at all. Doesn't sound silly at all. Yeah, I get
it's
it.
almost like I'm playing a character, because
Sure. Yeah.
Some days I'm this sassy stylist. Some days I'm, you know, more laid back. I get to play different characters all the time. And, you know, sometimes it takes several takes to make those videos, believe it or not. They're easy to film, I would say, but you know, you film something and you're like, oh, I don't like that, I got to scrap it. But the whole time I do it, sometimes it takes me 30 minutes, an hour, sit there and film a couple of videos, and it's genuinely fun for me. And I will say it's kind of the same feeling as doing hair. You know, it's like I get to make these videos, you know, I get to post them and then see people comment and see what they say. And it's kind of the same thing with hair. It's different, you know, doing, you know, hair behind the chair than it is posting a social media video on TikTok. But just seeing how happy I can make people. And also, I feel like now that I've moved to Austin and I just started my career over, I've had a lot of people that, most of my clients recently, they watch my TikToks and then they come and see me and they just want to hug me. And they're like, I want you to do my hair, but also I follow you on TikTok. And it's like getting those people that genuinely have followed me for so long, but also I get to make them feel beautiful. And we get to take pictures together and just have that genuine conversation. It's a lot of fun. Like I love doing hair, but TikTok and hair put together is definitely my happy place. And I hope it doesn't end anytime soon.
I don't think it will. You have a passion for this. I want to ask you one question. I was reading this about you, and I forget where I was reading it on, but I'm sure you've had some moments when you've dealt with people's hair and different things like that. There was one where a bride came to you, if I'm not mistaken, and she wanted a complete shortcut, correct? Just before the wedding. I read that and I thought, wow, can you take us through that with those that don't know?
What's funny about that was one of my first videos, and genuinely one that blew up because people were shocked. I mean, I think we cut 9-10 inches at least. You know, she came in right before her wedding, pretty close to the wedding. And she was really excited, and she knew she wanted to cut her hair. She seemed very confident. Well, this was years ago when I was still kind of newer to doing hair, and I know better now. Don't trust what brides say always.
Right.
But she wanted a complete change. And I thought, okay, you know, we'll cut it off. She'll be excited. I cut her hair off and she cried. And she freaked out. And it was genuinely one of the most traumatizing things I think that's ever happened to me in my life, because this person is about to embark on this big journey, and you just mess their hair up, even though you didn't mean to. And that's also a learning lesson for newer stylists. I tell people, I'm like, do not do something drastic to someone that is making a huge life change, because more than likely they're probably going to hate it. So be careful of that. And, you know, you learn those lessons, though. That's something that a lot of people, that's why they quit doing hair, because something like that happens to them. And they just can't deal with it after that. But someone like me, I was sad about it for a day or two, but I thought, you know what? You'll never do it again. You've learned from it.
Right.
And those, I've had a lot of crazy things happen to me like that. I'm sure if you saw any of the others, it's insane. But the things that we deal with as stylists, and the fact that most of us stylists have dealt with all these same things, believe it or not.
Did you know if the groom knew that she was going to get that done before, or no?
Honestly, I don't remember, but I feel like they usually surprise the guy.
Right.
And
that's a surprise.
I'm sure that was a fun conversation.
Yeah. Wow. My goodness. How do you, going back to even her and that woman, I'm sure there's other things as well. Have you grown from some of the experiences you've had at times when the style may not be what the client did want? And you said that with this woman, for example, you kind of took a couple of days and you were sad and whatever, and then you got over it. Are you getting better at that type of thing?
I am, because I feel like, you know, it doesn't matter how long you've done hair for, you are going to mess up. And even if you've been doing hair for 20 years, if you meet a stylist that says, you know, I haven't messed anyone's hair up in 10 years, me personally, I think they might be lying or stretching the truth, because yeah, there's still times even now, every now and then, that I've done a cut and someone isn't just in love with it, even if they're not just super angry or upset and crying, or I've done a color and I wasn't happy with it and maybe they weren't happy with it, but what you do after that is what matters. I've had people that they didn't like their hair even just months ago, and I'd say, okay, well, this tone is wrong. It's not what you wanted. Or we didn't do this balayage heavy enough, and you're not as blonde as you wanted. I get that. I see that. And all you do is have an honest conversation with them and just say, hey, I'll bring you back next week. I have an opening here. If you can make this work, I'm going to make sure that you're happy. And, you know, I don't charge them. I just bring them back in, and they appreciate the honesty. You know, there's times that maybe they did like their hair, and I said, you know what? I don't like this. I'm going to bring you back in, because they're a walking advertisement. If they tell someone to come and see me, and, you know, but people really don't like their hair because of something I did, that's more embarrassing, right? So I don't know, that's how I look at it.
And that's trust, right? Trust from them to you and you to them as well, which is great. We're getting into the summer months, getting warmer. What colors, what cut trends kind of are in, and maybe what do you see happening in the next few months?
Oh, I am terrible about guessing that, but I will say, I mean, definitely still the more low maintenance colors. You know, people like to go a little bit longer, which is hard on us.
Right.
But I would say the very warm tones. You know, it used to be the trend. Everyone wanted ashy hair, and I feel like the warm blondes are definitely a thing. The lived-in blondes. Vibrant colors are always in, you know, reds and just fun hair, I feel like. I will say everyone that likes to go blonde is definitely already starting that process, because, you know, it's May now, and I get a lot of people that come in, they're dark hair color, and they're like, China, it's ready to go blonde. I'm ready to go blonde. And I'm like, I figured that. We just took you dark a few months ago.
Right.
You're stressing me out, but let's do it.
Yeah.
And then, you know, always one cut that I feel like I do pretty often, especially recently, is like lots of layers and face framing, kind of like the Jennifer Aniston. That's always been popular, but you know, a lot of the face framing and like the curtain bangs. I get a lot of the more natural long curtain bangs. People love those. They come in and want those, and I haven't had a single person that isn't in love with that. It's easy. I get a lot of low maintenance clients, though. You know, they sometimes don't want to come back for 3 or 4, 6 months, and that's fine. But I'm just always up for anything. I never say there's going to be one trend because people come in and just throw you for a loop, honestly.
Yeah. I feel like too, the Jennifer Aniston thing, that's never going to get old, right?
No.
It's always there. She never gets old either. I don't know what she's doing, but well,
Yeah, she's an icon.
She sure is. Speaking of, you've got great hair. Who does
Thank you.
yours? Who does yours? I'm sure it's someone you trust.
Well, if I'm being honest, there's always someone different.
Okay.
I actually sometimes will do my highlights because
Wow.
I can't find someone to do it, or I just moved. I'm actually getting my hair done later today, so excuse the roots a little bit. I get very heavy highlights, and I have very dark brown hair, so China has to get her roots done pretty often to stay this blonde.
Right. I think it looks good. So if you did them yourself, if you did the highlights yourself, how long of a process would that be?
Oh goodness, probably an hour and a half, maybe a couple hours. Right. I can't do the back though, so everyone laughs at me. They're like, China, there's some dark back there.
You're missing like, some. Oh. Yeah.
I couldn't reach it. I did what I could in the front, and this is the look we're going with. But yeah, I'm having someone do it for me today. Thank goodness.
Well, it looks great. That's when you put a hat on too, just to cover up some things until you get somebody actually can do it. Couple more from me. One of them is, and whenever I talk to somebody like yourself who has come a long way, worked very hard, still a long way to go, and you're passionate about what you do. Looking back to a young China, if there were anything that you would tell a young China now that you would back then, what would some of those things be?
Honestly, I feel like I was a very insecure person. When I first started doing hair, I felt like I get these questions a lot from the younger stylists, especially through TikTok, that are in beauty school or just started doing hair. A lot of us, when we start out, we have no confidence.
Right.
And like I said, especially when some, bad situations happen, because you're not usually going to be very good at hair when you start out. I think if I could go back, I would say, listen, it's going to take a long time to get to where you're at. I'm happy now in my life and I'm doing really well, but I genuinely went through a lot of times where I wanted to give up. I'd go home crying because my boss yelled at me. And, maybe my coworkers, there was a lot of drama and cattiness. And I almost felt like it was really hard to fit in because I was always very sweet. And, I just wanted to do hair. And it's not easy. It's not an easy career. And that's not to sound, make it sound like it's something that people shouldn't do. But
right.
You have to build tough skin, and you just have to learn how to talk to clients, because I feel like when you don't have that confidence, clients will take advantage of you or, your boss, and you have to be able to stand up for yourself. And I feel like that took me so long to learn that I should have demanded more respect for myself back then and said, no, right. I'm good at hair. I only have to learn. I've had so many girls message me after they saw me on stage at the hair show in Chicago. They were like, you give me so much confidence, and this is so exciting because you started from nothing. I said, well, yeah, it takes years sometimes to get to that point. There's so many young stylists that are 2-3 years out of school at the most, and they post all over social media, and that's awesome. But a lot of these young stylists think, I have to be at that point in 2 years, or I'm not doing good. I'm not successful. Right. And that's not the case. It can take years, and that's okay. And I just want people to know that no matter where you are in your hair career, you can get there. It might take you 5 years, 10 years, but if you want it bad enough, you'll get there. That's just how I look at things.
Wise words. Do you consider yourself a role model for younger women or younger stylists?
I don't know about that. I mean, I like to think so,
You certainly have an impact. You certainly have an impact on people. That's for sure. Yeah.
I mean, I want to be, and I want to be that positive light. And that's why a lot of my videos, I try to make them funny, so people, not always just negative interactions. I want people to laugh and say, oh my goodness, that was so funny. You're so silly. But also knowing that a lot of the things I've gone through, they're like, wow, I went through that, and she's laughing and she got over it. She's doing fine. So, I genuinely, it gets overwhelming. I've cried before because of some of the messages I've gotten from some of these young girls or men or whoever messages me. it's a lot on your soul, even for people to tell you that, hey, I just had someone the other day that said they went to cosmetology school because of me and they're about to graduate, and I just wanted to cry like a baby because they didn't understand what that meant to me. They think, oh, I'll just message her this and she'll just look at it and go on. No, that means a lot, that I can inspire anybody to want to do something that they've wanted to do because they see me doing it and thriving, and knowing that I've gone through all these hard things and I came out on the other side and I'm doing great.
Yeah, you really are. The world needs more of you. Absolutely. And you're doing an amazing job. This has been a lot of fun. Just give us again your socials before we let you go.
So my Instagram is China with 2 A's on the end, Ray, R-A-E, with 2 E's on the end. It's Instagram. And my TikTok is China Ray, China with 2 A's, Ray, R-A-E, with 1 E. So
got it. Writing those down, and I'm all good. Hey, this has been fun. First time I've ever met you and talked to you, kind of e-meeting you through this. You're fantastic. Your energy is amazing. Hair looks good. Go get those roots done today. And I'll look forward to doing this again with you soon. This would be great.
I appreciate that. We're friends now, so we got to stay in touch.
Yep. And I think I followed you. My Instagram is really small. I don't have a TikTok, but I did follow you the other day on Instagram. So maybe we can connect through there as well.
I will definitely follow you back.
Okay, good. China, all right. Thank you. And thank you for listening and watching, folks, to another edition of Oriac Live.